as I say, this is just for blood.
What up everybody, coming at you with one of the most requested DIY videos for my channel, and today we're going to go over how I built the mechanical arm for my arm wrestling training machine. This piece of equipment was created to emulate an opponent's arm, providing all the functional capability and resistance you would get when arm wrestling a real person. Most arm wrestling specific equipment available on the market today is limited in functionality, only providing linear resistance with few active components related to arm wrestling, and are very expensive. In fact, more expensive than my entire gym combined. So in order for me to design this machine, it had to provide resistance in every basic component that's involved when actually arm wrestling an opponent, including cupping, rising, pronation, supination, pressing, side pressure, back pressure, and finger pressure. It also had to be affordable, easy to build, easy to fix and replace parts if something were to break. It's important to note this training device is part of a much larger, more complex universal arm wrestling machine that includes an adjustable pulley system in the front, a forearm, wrist, and hand station in the back, a mechanical arm on one side, and will soon have a pec deck and pressing station built on the other side to complete the ultimate all-in-one training universal. But to keep this simple, I will only cover how to build the mechanical arm section of this universal, and will cover details for the remaining parts of this machine in another video. So let's get into it. Step 1. Gather materials. For this project you will need the following materials, starting with the wood materials first. 1 8-inch piece of 2x8 wood, 14 inches of 2x4 wood, 3 inches of 4x4 wood, 6 inches of 2x6 wood, 24 inches of 3/4 inch plywood, and 4 inches of a 3/4 inch dowel. For the hardware you will need 1 heavy duty seat swivel, 2 3-inch door springs, 2 5-inch door springs, 2 6-inch door springs, 2 1 1/2 inch pillow blocks, 2 1-inch pillow blocks, 2 D-ring mounting brackets, 2 5-inch galvanized mending plates, 2 pipe hanger brackets, 4 small U brackets, 4 larger screw-in eye bolts, 5 small screw-in eye bolts, 1 small standard eye bolt, 1 heavy-duty 3-inch L bracket, 2 2-inch by 1/4 inch hex bolt and nut, 1 6-inch by 1/4 inch hex bolt and nut, 1 4-inch by 1/4 inch hex bolt and nut, 1 6-inch by 3/8 inch carriage bolt and nut, 4 4-inch by 1/2 inch carriage bolt and nut, 4 2 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch carriage bolt and nut, 1 6-inch by 1/2 inch hex bolt and nut, 1 3/4 inch floor flange, 1 1/2 inch floor flange, 1 6-inch by 3/4 inch nipple and cap, 1 1/2 inch by 2-inch nipple, 1 1/2 inch iron pipe T, 1 4-inch lag bolt, 1 large washer, 1 carabiner, and a handful of 1/2 inch, 1 inch, and 2-inch screws. Last but not least, you will need a small amount of foam padding, duct tape, and about 20 inches of rubber tubing. The only tools that you will need are a power drill, a jigsaw, and a miter saw. Step 2. Complete cut list. Now it's time to make the following cuts. For the 2x4 wood, make 1 cut of 6 1/2 inches and 1 cut of 7 1/2 inches. For the 2x6 wood, make 1 cut of 6 inches. For the 4x4 wood, make 1 cut of 3 inches. For the 2x8 wood, make 1 7-inch cut in the shape of a partial circle as shown. Be sure to leave a few inches of flat surface space at one end of the cut so that it can sit flush when being installed. For the plywood, make 3 cuts of 6 1/2 inches by 6 1/2 inches, 2 cuts of 3 1/2 inches by 5 inches, and 1 cut of 3 1/2 inches by 2 inches. Lastly, you will need 2 cuts of 2 inches of the 3/4 inch wooden dowel. Step 3. Sand all wooden cuts. This step is self-explanatory. Be sure to sand all wooden cuts thoroughly to ensure a smooth finish. Step 4. Assemble base. As you can see from this picture, the mechanical arm is located in the same position as my opponent would be, 8 inches from the elbow pad. I built this table specifically for the mechanical arm using WAF dimensions as a guide. I also built a weight stack and pulley system that connect to the arm at 3 different locations to provide back pressure, side pressure, and general stability to help the machine return back to its central position. However, this video will not go into much detail about the table or cable system because they are only specific to this universal machine and are not a necessity for the arm to operate correctly. What you will need for the arm to function as it should is a standard adjustable cable system with a rotating pulley, a couple anchor brackets, and a few resistance bands. Now, with all that being said, let's assemble the base. Start by taking the 3 6 1/2 inch plywood cuts from the cut list and join them together using 2-inch screws. Next, place the 1 1/2 inch pillow blocks on top of the plywood and align them at each end of the plywood as shown. The pillow blocks will create a channel for the 6-inch nipple to slide through and be capped at the end, so make sure to adjust the pillow blocks accordingly before you drill. Once everything is fitted properly, drill 4 holes and bolt the pillow blocks down using the 4 4-inch carriage bolts. You will need to countersink the holes so that the bolts are flush with the surface of the base. Now install 2 of the U-brackets on both sides of the back of the base as shown using 1-inch screws. Next, turn the base over and install the heavy-duty seat swivel onto the bottom of the base using 1-inch screws. Then turn the base back over and install the swivel and base into its location. For this example, I installed the base directly in the center of the table frame measuring 8 inches from the front of the elbow pad. After the base is installed, check to ensure it can freely rotate 360 degrees with no issues. The last part of this step is to drill and install 4 large screw-in eye bolts seen here at 3 inches and 7 inches from both sides of the base. Once the eye bolts are all tightly secure, connect both the 5-inch and 3-inch springs to the set of eye bolts and the U-mounting brackets on the side of the base. Before you finish step 4, be sure to manually rotate the base left and right to make sure it is properly installed. The base should be able to pivot to both sides with enough attention and also consistently return back to its central position. The base of this machine is designed to pivot the same way your opponent's body would pivot and adjust during a real match.
The base here acts kind of as the person's body. It's able to swivel both left and right.
Step 5. Build elbow. With the base complete, it's now time to build the next part of this machine. Take the lone 6-inch 2x6 board from the cut list and place both 1-inch pillow blocks on top of the board. Position the pillow blocks to be exactly 3 inches apart so that the metal T-piping shown here can eventually fit in between. Be sure that the bottom of the pillow blocks are flush with the bottom of the board, which should leave about a 1/2 inch clearance at the top. Using a power drill, drill 4 holes into the board and join the pillow blocks to the board using the 4 2 1/2 inch carriage bolts from the hardware list. Then carefully drill and install 2 small screw-in eye bolts to both sides of the 2x6 board. Once again, you will need to countersink the holes so that the carriage bolts are flush with the back side of the board as shown. Next, turn the board over and install the 3/4 inch floor flange at the bottom of the board as seen here, using 1-inch screws.
I just put a simple 3/4 inch flange with a 3/4 inch 6-inch pipe.
Now take the 6-inch by 3/4 inch nipple and install it into the floor flange as tight as possible.
And what this will allow you to do is slide this piece into this channel like so.
The last 2 parts of this step is to install the elbow by sliding the 6-inch nipple into both the 1 1/2 inch pillow blocks on the base and screw on the nipple cap to lock the elbow in place. Once completed, install 2 more of the small screw-in eye bolts to the outside frame of the table as seen, and connect the last 2 6-inch springs from the eye bolts on the frame to the eye bolts on the elbow. Make sure to manually turn the elbow left and right to ensure that it returns to center consistently. Step 6. Build arm and wrist. Now it's time to build the arm and wrist of this machine. Start by taking the 7 1/2 inch 2x4 boards from the cut list and drill a hole 1 3/4 inches from the top and bottom of the board and 1 1/2 inches from the end of the board. Now take the 3-inch L bracket from the hardware list and place it on top of the 2x4 so that it is flush with the other end of the board. Drill and join the L bracket to the board using the 2 2-inch hex bolts from the hardware list.
You bolt this 3-inch angle bracket onto this 2x4, and then you want to add these D-ring anchor brackets to the
Now
side.
take the 2 D-ring anchor brackets and install them to both sides of the 2x4 using the 1-inch screws, and take the single standard eye bolt from the hardware list and screw it into the top hole of the L bracket as shown. Next, take the single 4x4 cut from the cut list and install the 2 galvanized mending brackets to both sides of the 4x4 using 1-inch screws. Then take the 2 remaining U-brackets and repeat the process on the other side of the 4x4 using 1-inch screws. Once completed, drill a hole directly into the middle of the 4x4 as shown using a power drill and 3/8 drill bit. Now it's time to connect the wrist to the arm. Take the 6-inch by 3/8 inch hex bolt from the hardware list and slide it through the hole into the 4x4. Turn the 4x4 over with the bolt sticking out and install the large washer from the hardware list as shown. Then turn the 4x4 back over and slide the bolt sticking out of the 4x4 into the hole in the 2x4 as you see here, and secure the bolt with a 3/8 nut at the bottom. Once completed, the 4x4 should freely rotate in place without friction. To add resistance, take the rubber tubing from the material list and cut about 8 inches, leaving enough room to tie a knot at one end of the rubber. Slide the unknotted end of the rubber tubing through the hole of the L bracket and continue to loop it through the U bracket on the side of the 4x4 and resuming back through the same hole in the L bracket as shown. Be sure to tie a second smaller knot at the end of the tubing to prevent it from sliding back through the hole. It's important to note that the tubing should swell enough to prevent it from sliding out when in use, but should also be able to easily be removed manually when it's time to switch which hand you wish to train with. As with the previous steps, be sure to test the rotation of the wrist to ensure that it can rotate on both sides and return back to its central position. The last part of step 5 is to turn the wrist section over and install the 1/2 inch floor flange directly over the carriage bolt as shown using 1-inch screws. Screw in the 2-inch nipple from the hardware list, followed by the 1/2 inch iron pipe T. Tighten the hardware accordingly so that the T is perpendicular to the 2x4. Finally, align the iron T coupling between the pillow blocks as shown and slide the 6-inch by 1/2 inch hex bolt into position and tighten the nut securely to lock the wrist and arm to the elbow of the machine.
So now that you have an elbow and an arm to work with, that will go down as well as side to side, as well as pivot back and forth as well.
Step 7. Build hand. Start building the hand by taking the 6 1/2 inch 2x4 board from the cut list and drill a hole 3/4 inches from the bottom of the board. Next, take the 2 3 1/2 inch by 5 inch plywood cuts and join them to both sides of the 2x4 using 1-inch screws, and do the same with the 2-inch plywood cut on the top of the 2x4. To create the thumbs, take the 2 2-inch dowel cuts from the cut list and drill a small hole directly in the middle of both using a power drill. Also, drill the same size hole at the top corner of the 2x4 where you want the thumbs to be located.
I drilled a hole accordingly to where the thumbs would be into 2 3/4 inch dowels, and then I screwed the dowels in using this 6-inch by 1/4 inch bolt.
Lastly, insert the 6-inch by 1/4 inch hex bolt into the first 2-inch dowel, through the 2x4 and into the second 2-inch dowel to secure the thumbs to the hand. Now it's time to install the last piece to this step. Take the single 2x8 cut from the cut list and drill a hole 1 1/2 inches from the end of the cut as shown. Be sure to drill the end that has the necessary flat surface space as mentioned earlier. Join the boards together using the lone 4-inch lag bolt from the hardware list. This will allow the top board to rotate from left side to right side when you wish to switch which hand you choose to train with.
What I want to do is create a universal hand that I can go left hand or right hand very quickly with.
Now take the 2 hanger brackets from the hardware list and join them to the 2x8 piece as shown using 1/2 inch screws to act as a guide for the rubber tubing. Finally, take the last small screw-in eye bolt and install it here.
I carved this out of a 2x8, and this acts as your opponent's fingers that you would need to try to pronate through. This is also a guide for your resistance bands to roll along as you're pronating.
The last part of this step is to install the hand to the wrist of the machine. Simply align the hole at the bottom of the hand with the holes at the top of the mending brackets and use the last 6-inch by 1/4 inch hex bolt from the hardware list to secure the hand in place. Once complete, the hand should rotate back and forth freely. To give the hand cupping resistance, take the remaining rubber tubing and repeat the process performed earlier, tying a knot at one end to keep the tubing from slipping through the U bracket, and feed the other end through both hanger brackets and into the eye bolt at the top of the hand, then tie a smaller knot into the tubing. You may add as many multiple layers of tubing as needed until you reach the desired resistance. I also found that adding a small amount of foam padding and duct tape to the hand and fingers made a significant difference in both comfort and realism. Using a typical 20 to 30 pound exercise pump cord worked best for the rubber tubing. Step 8. Using the machine. Although using this machine is pretty self-explanatory, let's quickly go over the general concept of how to get the most out of this piece of equipment. I did not cover the table or cable system for this project, assuming anyone who wishes to build this machine would already have those two things. If you do not have an arm wrestling table and would like to build one specifically for this machine, I suggest watching my DIY arm wrestling table video. Now to address the cable system. I built an elaborate weight stack and cable system specifically for this machine using several pulleys to provide resistance in multiple locations.
In terms of the cable system starts, if you wanted to start right at the weight stack. The weight stack is connected, the first end of the cable system is actually connected to the arm. The cable goes down, around a pulley, on top of the weight stack, back up and back behind, then underneath here, where I have two pieces of cable coming on both sides of the arm. So when it goes left to right, the cable system is activated. So the more weight that you have, generally the more resistance it's going to get you for both back pressure and side pressure at the same time.
Although this system complements the arm nicely, it is not a necessity and can be replaced by a standard adjustable pulley system you may already have. However, if you do not own a pulley system and would like more details about the one used in this video, I will address this topic in detail when I make the second part of this video explaining how to build the rest of this all-in-one arm wrestling training universal. You may also search for my DIY cable system in my playlist if interested in building one for your home gym. Now for time and cost. If buying everything brand new, things will start to add up quickly, estimated to cost between $150 and $175, with general labor time to be about 3 to 4 hours. For anyone interested in building the entire all-in-one universal, or may be interested in having any of my machines built for you, please visit my website at www.powerbornproductions.com, where you'll find information on all my gym equipment and training services. You have now completed your arm wrestling training machine. Be sure to tune in to future episodes as we continue the series, How I Built the Craziest Gym Ever.
Monster, Michael Todd.